Commander Hyuk floated through the corridor of Aurora 7, the deep space monitoring station that had been his home for 3 years. The station orbited beyond Neptune, far from Earth, watching the darkness for anything unusual. Most days nothing happened. Today was different. The alarm had woken him 2 hours earlier than his shift. Red lights flashed in every hallway. When he reached the command center, his crew was already there, staring at the screens with pale faces. "Talk to me," Hyuk said, pulling himself into his seat. Tai-ho, the young communications officer, pointed at the main display. "Multiple contacts, sir, big ones. They appeared near the edge of our detection range about an hour ago." Hyuk studied the screen. Dozens of shapes moved through space, heading toward the inner solar system. Each one was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The computer was still trying to count them all. "How many?" Hyuk asked. "We count at least 300 ships," Tai-ho replied. "Maybe more. They're still coming." Dr. Nari entered the command center, still pulling on her uniform. She was the station's expert on alien life, though until now that had been a job with nothing to do. "Humans had never met aliens before. Is this real?" she asked, moving to Hyuk's side. "It's real," Hyuk confirmed. He felt cold despite the station's steady temperature. "Send everything to Earth. Command needs to see this immediately." Tai-ho's fingers moved across his console. "Already done, sir. Earth received our data 10 minutes ago. They're calling an emergency meeting of all world leaders." The ships continued their steady approach. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of fish. Whoever controlled them had done this many times before. "Can we tell anything about them?" Hyuk asked Nari. She shook her head. "Not yet. The ships are using technology we don't understand. I'm detecting energy readings that shouldn't be possible with our physics." "Try to communicate," Hyuk ordered. "All frequencies. Maybe they're friendly." Tai-ho nodded and began broadcasting. He sent greetings in every human language, along with mathematical sequences and simple images. For 20 minutes nothing came back. Then the console lit up. "We're receiving something," Tai-ho said, his voice shaking. It's translating itself automatically." "Sir, they're speaking English, and Chinese, and Arabic. They're speaking every language at once." "Put it through," Hyuk said. A voice filled the command center. It was flat and emotionless, like a computer reading a script. "Attention, primitive species of the third planet. This system is now claimed by the Varathian Empire. You have 72 of your hours to prepare for integration. Resistance will result in immediate extinction. Compliance will result in assigned labor duties and restricted planetary rights. This is your only warning." The message repeated in different languages, the same cold words over and over. Hyuk felt his stomach drop. "They're going to invade," Nari whispered. "They're going to take Earth." "Not if we can stop them," Hyuk said. But even he heard how hollow the words sounded. Those ships were beyond anything humans could fight. Earth's best weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank. Tai-ho was working furiously at his station. "Sir, they're doing something strange." "What do you mean?" "They're accessing our transmissions. Not just recent ones. They're pulling data from satellites, from old broadcasts, from archived files on Earth's networks. It's like they're downloading everything about us." Hyuk frowned. "Military information?" "Some," Tai-ho admitted. "But not just that. They're taking movies, books, music, history files, news broadcasts, everything. Why would an invasion force care about our entertainment?" It was a good question. Hyuk had no answer. The next 72 hours were chaos. Earth's governments tried everything. They offered to surrender immediately. They offered resources, technology, anything the aliens wanted. The Varathians ignored every message. They just kept downloading information and moving closer. The military prepared for a fight everyone knew they would lose. Missiles were armed. Every ship humans had was moved into defensive positions. It wouldn't matter. The Varathian ships could probably destroy Earth's entire fleet without slowing down. Hyuk stayed on the station, watching and reporting. Tai-ho barely slept, trying to understand what the aliens were looking for in all their downloads. The young officer had a gift for seeing patterns, and something about this bothered him. "Commander," Tai-ho said on the third day, "I need to show you something." Hyuk looked at his screen. Tai-ho had organized the alien downloads into categories. The largest category made Hyuk's blood run cold. "They're focused on human warfare," Tai-ho explained. "Not our weapons technology, but our wars themselves. Battle accounts from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Syria, Every conflict we've ever had. They're especially interested in the worst ones. Maybe they're studying how to defeat us, Nari suggested. Maybe, Taiho said slowly. But look at this. They're also downloading fiction, war movies, post-apocalypse stories, survival scenarios, and medical files about human endurance, pain tolerance, recovery rates. He looked up at Hyuk. Why would they need all that if they're just going to wipe us out? Hyuk stared at the data. Taiho was right. Something didn't add up. An empire that had clearly done this before wouldn't need to study their victims so carefully. Unless they're afraid, Hyuk said suddenly. Sir, Taiho looked confused. Think about it. They gave us a warning. They're studying us carefully. They're learning everything they can about human behavior before they make contact. Hyuk stood up, his mind racing. They're not treating us like primitives. They're treating us like a threat. Nari shook her head. That's impossible. We barely have space travel. They have hundreds of ships that can cross the galaxy. Why would they fear us? I don't know, Hyuk admitted. But we need to find out. Taiho, dig deeper. Find out what they're looking at most carefully. There's something about humans that worries them, and we need to know what it is. The Varathian fleet reached Mars orbit. 50 hours had passed since their first message. Earth had 22 hours left to prepare for whatever came next. The entire planet held its breath, waiting. On Aurora 7, Taiho worked through the night, following the trail of alien interest through humanity's vast digital history. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he knew it was there. Somewhere in the data the aliens were consuming so hungrily was the answer to why they seemed so cautious. As the clock ticked down, Earth's last free hours slipping away, one young communications officer searched desperately for the key that might save his species. Behind him, Commander Hyuk watched the Varathian fleet and wondered what secrets humanity possessed that they themselves didn't even know about. The answer was coming. The question was whether they would find it in time. Ambassador Sora stepped off the transport ship and tried not to show her fear. The Varathian vessel loomed above her like a metal mountain. Its surface was dark and smooth, reflecting nothing. She had been chosen to represent Earth because she had experience negotiating with difficult governments, but she had never negotiated for the survival of her entire species before. 2 Varathian soldiers waited for her at the airlock. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and too many joints in their arms and legs. They wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Neither one spoke. They simply gestured for her to follow. The inside of the ship was cold and dim. Sora's breath created small clouds in the air. The gravity felt wrong too, lighter than Earth normal. Her escort led her through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. She saw other Varathians watching her from doorways and side passages. All of them stared with the same expression, something between curiosity and concern. They brought her to a large room with a curved table. On one side sat a Varathian in different armor, more ornate than the soldiers. Sora assumed this was their commander or diplomat. She sat down across from him, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. I am Sora, Ambassador of Earth, she said. I'm here to discuss terms for— There are no terms, the Varathian interrupted. His voice was rough, like gravel grinding. Your planet will be integrated into the Varathian Empire. Your people will work in assigned roles. This is not a negotiation. Sora had prepared for this. Then why agree to meet with me? The Varathian paused. It was just a moment, barely noticeable, but Sora caught it. Uncertainty. Protocol, he finally said. We always offer integration meetings before final conquest. Protocol, Sora repeated. She leaned forward slightly. Is it protocol to study a species for 3 days before meeting with them? Is it protocol to download every piece of information about their history and culture? Another pause. Longer this time. We are thorough, the Varathian said. You're afraid, Sora replied softly. You're afraid of us, the Varathian stood abruptly. This meeting is over. You have 18 hours remaining. Prepare your people. Sora was escorted back to her transport. As she left, she noticed the soldiers keeping their distance from her, their hands near their weapons. They were treating her like she was dangerous. It should have made her feel powerful, but instead it made her more confused. What could humans possibly have that would make a galaxy-spanning empire nervous? Back on Earth, Lieutenant Jiho paced the war room beneath Beijing. Screens covered every wall, showing the Varathian fleet positions, Earth's defensive deployments, and constant news feeds from around the world. Panic was spreading despite government attempts to maintain order. People knew the truth. Earth had one day left and no way to win. "We should attack now," Jiho said to the room full of generals and politicians. "While they're still spread out, hit them with everything." General Huan shook his head. "They would destroy us in minutes. We need to keep looking for a diplomatic solution." "There is no diplomatic solution." Jiho slammed his hand on the table. "They've conquered hundreds of worlds. They're not going to make an exception for us." Yuna, the military historian, spoke up from her corner. She had been studying the alien downloads for hours. "Lieutenant Jiho is wrong. They might make an exception." Everyone turned to look at her. "Explain," General Huan commanded. Yuna pulled up a file on the main screen. "I've been working with the cyber team that's tracking what the Varathians are accessing. They're not looking at random human history. They're focused on specific things. Wars, yes, but not strategy or tactics. They're downloading soldier accounts, survivor stories, records of battles where humans should have lost but kept fighting anyway." She switched to another file. "They pulled every piece of media about human endurance. Marathon runners, persistence hunters, stories of people surviving impossible situations, medical records of humans recovering from terrible injuries." "So what?" Jiho asked. "They're studying us to know how to kill us efficiently." "No," Yuna said firmly. "If that was the goal, they'd study our weapons, our military structure, our supply lines. Instead, they're studying what makes humans themselves dangerous." She looked around the room. "They're trying to understand human psychology, human determination, human ability to survive. They're preparing for something they're not sure they can handle." General Huan frowned. "But we're primitives compared to them. Our technology is centuries behind." "Technology isn't everything," Yuna said. She pulled up another screen. "Look at this. They accessed our entire database on Earth's environment. Detailed information about our atmosphere, weather patterns, gravity, diseases, even our microbiology. And after reviewing it, their fleet stopped advancing for 6 hours. 6 hours of no movement at all. What does that mean?" Sora's voice came through the speakers. She had just returned from the Varathian ship. "It means something about Earth scares them," Yuna said. "Something about our planet itself." On Aurora 7, Taiho had reached the same conclusion through different data. He had been tracking the Varathian network traffic, watching what files they prioritized. One category kept appearing at the top of their download queue: comparative biology. "Dr. Nari," Taiho called out. "What do you know about how Earth compares to other planets?" Nari looked up from her console. "In what way?" "In every way. Gravity, atmosphere, life conditions. Is Earth normal?" Nari considered the question. "We've only found a few planets with life and none with intelligent life besides us. But from what we've seen, Earth is harsh. High gravity compared to most life-bearing worlds, active weather systems, aggressive microbial life, a lot of natural disasters. How harsh?" Taiho pressed. "I'd need to compare it to alien data we don't have," Nari admitted. "We might have that data," Taiho said excitedly. He pulled up the Varathian network connection. "They've been comparing Earth to their database. If I can access what they're comparing us to..." His fingers flew across his console. Commander Hyuk watched over his shoulder. "Can you really hack into an alien computer system?" "It's not hacking if they left the door open," Taiho muttered. "They're so focused on downloading our data, they didn't secure their own transmission properly." "Got it," a new window appeared on screen. It was clearly alien in design, but parts of it had been translated into English by the Varathians' own systems. Taiho scrolled through files, his eyes widening. "Commander," he said quietly, "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. What does that mean?" Hyuk asked. Taiho's hands were shaking as he pulled up more data. "According to their database, only 0.0003% of planets are this dangerous to life. Earth's gravity is in the top 5% of all worlds. Earth's oxygen atmosphere is considered toxic to most species. Earth's weather can kill in dozens of ways. Earth's diseases evolve faster than almost anywhere else." He looked up at Hyuk and Nari with wide eyes. "We're not just aliens to them. We're aliens from hell. We're a species that evolved in conditions that would kill most galactic life in hours." The pieces started falling into place. The careful studying, the hesitation, the interest in human endurance and survival. The Varathians weren't studying humans to conquer them efficiently. They were studying humans because they were terrified of what evolution on a death world had created. and they had good reason to be. Mirai had been a hacker before the government recruited her for the cyber defense team. She was good at finding ways into systems that were supposed to be secure, but she had never tried to hack an alien database before. It turned out to be easier than she expected. The Vorathians had powerful technology, but they were overconfident. They assumed humans couldn't understand their systems. Mirai proved them wrong. Within hours of Taiho's discovery, she had created a backdoor into their entire network. "I'm in," she announced to the emergency command center. On screen, the Vorathian database opened up before her. "What am I looking for?" "Earth's classification file," General Huan ordered. Everything they know about us? Mirai navigated through alien file structures that made her head hurt. But gradually she found what they needed. The file was enormous, full of data the Vorathians had collected over centuries of galactic exploration. "Found it?" she said, "sending it to all stations now." Dr. Nari and Deho, an exobiologist, began reading through the translated file on Aurora 7. What they found made them go quiet. "Commander Hugh," Nari said slowly, "you need to see this." The file explained everything. Earth was one of only 417 Class 12 death worlds ever discovered in the explored galaxy. That sounded like a lot until you realized there were over 40 million cataloged planets. Earth was extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily deadly. The file listed Earth's dangers in cold scientific terms: gravity that would cripple species evolved on lighter worlds, an atmosphere so rich in oxygen it was essentially corrosive, temperature swings that ranged from boiling to freezing, weather systems that could generate winds strong enough to destroy buildings, geological activity that regularly reshaped continents, life forms that competed so aggressively that peaceful evolution was nearly impossible. "But humans live here easily," Commander Hayek said, confused. "That's the point," Deho replied. He was reading the biological assessment section. "Listen to this. Species evolved on Class 12 worlds develop extreme survival adaptations. High-gravity worlds produce species with incredible physical strength and endurance. Toxic atmospheres create highly efficient biological systems. Aggressive ecosystems produce enhanced healing, disease resistance, and threat response capabilities." Nari continued reading. "It gets worse, or better, depending on perspective. Warning: Death world species have historically proven extremely difficult to control or contain. Of the 12 confirmed intelligent Death world species encountered in recorded history, 3 became galaxy-dominant before voluntary extinction, 4 required permanent military quarantine, 2 achieved peaceful but isolated development, and 3 are currently classified as existential threats. There are only 3 other intelligent Death world species besides us?" Tejo asked. "Currently active, yes," Nari confirmed. "And apparently the galaxy is terrified of all of them." Yuna pulled up historical files the Vorathians had on these other species. The first one, called the Krell in the database, had evolved on a high-gravity water world. They were peaceful traders now. But 2,000 years ago, they had conquered a quarter of the galaxy before simply deciding to stop and go home. No one had been able to stop them. They stopped themselves. The second species, the Vrex, lived in a triple-star system with extreme radiation. They were quarantined on their own world by 3 different galactic empires working together. According to the files, a single Vrex ship had once destroyed an entire fleet before it was finally stopped. The Vrex weren't allowed to leave their system because the galaxy couldn't afford to fight them. The third species had no name in the database. Just coordinates and a warning: do not approach. Do not communicate. Extinction level threat. "We're being compared to these species," Deho said in disbelief. "They think humans are like these monsters." "We're not monsters," Lieutenant Jiho said over the communication line. "We're just people." "Exactly," Yuna responded. "We're just people. But we're people who think a marathon is entertainment. We're people who climb mountains that can kill us for fun. We're people who keep pets that could rip us apart but choose not to. We're people who heal from injuries that would permanently disable most galactic species." She pulled up comparison charts. "Look at this. The average galactic species breaks bones at impacts we'd call minor bruises. Their immune systems can't handle the variety of diseases Earth produces. Their bodies give up under stress levels humans experience regularly, and that's not even counting our psychological differences." "What psychological differences?" General Huan asked. Yuna switched to another file. "This is from a Vorathian xenopsychology study. It says Death world species develop what they call terminal persistence. It means we don't know when to quit. A normal species, when facing certain death, will surrender to preserve some survivors. Death World species fight until there's literally no one left to fight. She highlighted a passage. Listen. Human military history shows consistent pattern of continued resistance even when extinction is certain. Examples include Thermopylae, Alamo, Stalingrad, countless others. This behavior is incomprehensible to standard galactic psychology and makes subjugation nearly impossible without complete annihilation. Commander Hayek felt something shift in his understanding. The Varathians weren't just afraid of human strength or endurance. They were afraid of human stubbornness, the refusal to accept defeat even when defeat was logical. There's more, Nari said. A biological section about human healing. Deho, look at this. Deho read the passage and his eyes went wide. They're amazed that humans can recover from severed limbs, punctured organs, massive blood loss, severe burns, and still return to full function with proper medical care. For most species, these injuries mean permanent disability or death even with advanced medicine. And this part, Nari added, about human pain tolerance. It says humans can function through pain levels that would put most species into shock and death, that our bodies produce natural chemicals that suppress pain and keep us operating in crisis situations. The adrenaline response, Deho breathed. They're fascinated by our adrenaline response. Ambassador Sora had been listening to all of this from her office on Earth. Her meeting with the Varathian commander made more sense now. He hadn't been dismissive. He had been careful, the way someone is careful around a dangerous animal. So what do we do with this information? She asked. There was silence on the channel. Everyone was thinking the same thing. They had discovered why the Varathians were afraid. But how could they use that knowledge? We remind them why they should be afraid, Lieutenant Jiho said finally. Not with threats, with truth. Explain, General Huan ordered. The Varathians are studying us because they need to understand the threat, Jiho said. They've been looking at our past. What if we show them our present? What if we make it clear exactly what kind of species they're dealing with? Hanseol, a communications engineer, spoke up. You mean send them a message? Not just to them, Jiho said. To everyone. The whole galaxy. Let them all know that Earth is a death world and humans are a death world species. Make it clear that if they push us, they'll find out exactly what evolution in hell produces. Yuna was nodding slowly. It's a psychological approach. We're not threatening invasion or destruction. We're simply stating facts, but those facts are terrifying if you understand what they mean. The Varathians already understand, Sora said. That's why they're moving so carefully. But if the rest of the galaxy knows, if everyone understands what humans are. She paused. It changes everything. Commander Hayek made a decision. Do it, prepare a transmission. We'll send it on every frequency we have. Show them Earth, show them humans. Show them what 4 billion years of survival evolution created. How long do we have? Tejo asked. General Huan checked the countdown. 8 hours until the Varathian deadline. Then we have 8 hours to make the galaxy tremble, Commander Hayek said. The team got to work. The transmission had to be perfect. It couldn't be a threat. It couldn't be a plea. It had to be simple truth, presented in a way that would make the galaxy understand what humans really were. Hanseol coordinated the technical side. He gathered footage from Earth, from the space stations, from everywhere humans had cameras. Yuna selected the historical records. Deho compiled the biological data. Nari wrote the script that would tie it all together. And Tejo prepared to broadcast it across every communication frequency humans could access. They had 6 hours left when they began putting the pieces together. The transmission opened with Earth itself. Not just images, but data. Temperature ranges that swung over 200 degrees between seasons. Weather patterns that generated hurricanes, tornadoes, and storms with the energy of nuclear weapons. Earthquakes and volcanoes that reshaped the land. An atmosphere so thick with oxygen that fires could burn for months. This is Earth, Nari's voice narrated. A Class 12 death world. This is where humanity evolved. Next came footage of humans in Earth's environment. Not soldiers or warriors, just ordinary people. A woman jogging through rain that would be considered a dangerous storm on most worlds. A man climbing a mountain in thin air that would suffocate other species. Children playing in heat that would cause most galactic life to shut down. Workers operating in cold that would freeze alien blood. Humans are not adapted to Earth, the narration continued. Humans are Earth's adaptation. 4 billion years of evolution in the harshest conditions created a species built for survival. The transmission showed human endurance, marathon runners completing distances that would kill most species from exhaustion. Persistence hunters following prey for days without stopping, outlasting animals faster and stronger but unable to match human stamina. Freedivers holding their breath for minutes underwater, mountaineers surviving at altitudes where there was barely any oxygen. The human body is a survival machine, Nari's voice explained. Humans can run for hours without stopping. They can go days without water. They can survive weeks without food. Their bodies produce chemicals that suppress pain, enhance strength, and sharpen focus when threatened. Then came the medical data. Not the gruesome parts, but the facts. Humans could lose significant blood and survive. They could recover from broken bones, torn muscles, damaged organs. Their immune systems fought off diseases constantly, adapting and learning. Their bodies could heal from burns, cuts, and injuries that would permanently disable most species. Human medicine is not advanced because humans are smart, the narration stated. It is advanced because humans needed to learn how to repair bodies that took damage constantly. Earth gave humans no choice but to become experts in survival. The transmission moved to human psychology, footage from human wars but not the battles themselves. Instead, it showed the aftermath. Soldiers who kept fighting after being wounded, civilians who rebuilt cities destroyed by bombs, populations that survived genocides and came back stronger, nations that lost wars but never surrendered their identity. Humans do not know how to quit, Nari's voice said. This is not bravery. This is programming. Earth taught humanity that surrender means death, so humans forgot how to surrender. Una had found the perfect historical examples. The 300 Spartans who held off an army of thousands. The defenders of Stalingrad who fought in frozen ruins until the attackers gave up. The Vietnamese who defeated multiple empires through sheer refusal to stop. The siege of Sarajevo, where people lived normal lives while shells fell on them daily. The countless examples throughout history, where humans faced extinction and chose to fight instead. Galactic species make logical decisions, the narration explained. When death is certain, they preserve what they can. Humans make different calculations. When death is certain, humans decide how many enemies they can take with them. The transmission showed human pack bonding next, not with each other but with everything. Humans who risked their lives to save animals. Humans who kept predators as pets. Humans who formed emotional connections with robots, with ships, with objects. The galaxy needed to understand that humans didn't just fight for themselves. They fought for anything they decided to care about. Humans do not have allies, Nari's voice continued. Humans have family, and humans will destroy anything that threatens their family. General Juan had insisted on including military capability, even though the technology was primitive compared to the Varathians, not to show strength but to show mindset, footage of nuclear tests, images of weapons designed to destroy entire cities, records of chemical and biological warfare that humans had developed and then decided were too terrible to use on themselves. Humans created weapons capable of ending their own species, the narration said, and then continued to create worse ones. Not because humans are violent, because humans are thorough. If fighting is necessary, humans want to ensure they can fight absolutely. The transmission was nearly complete. Hansel had edited it down to exactly 20 minutes, long enough to convey the message, short enough that people would watch it completely. Tejo had prepared the broadcast systems to send it everywhere at once, but they needed an ending. Something that would tie it all together and make the galaxy understand the choice they faced. Lieutenant Jiho suggested the final words. They were simple, direct, honest. We are from Earth, the transmission concluded. We evolved in conditions that kill. We breathe poison. We live in chaos. We break and we heal and we never ever stop. This is not a threat. This is a fact. You cannot negotiate with biology. You cannot change what 4 billion years created. We do not want war, but we come from a world that gave us no choice but to master it. Think carefully before you test whether we can master you too. The transmission ended with one final image, Earth viewed from space, beautiful and blue and completely unaware of how unusual it was, and a single line of text. We know only survival. Commander Hayek reviewed the completed transmission. It was good. Maybe good enough. He looked at his crew on Aurora 7. They were all young, all scared, all determined. Very human. Send it, he ordered. Tejo's hands moved across his console. broadcasting on all frequencies. Standard galactic channels, Varathian military bands, everything we can reach. It's going out now. The transmission raced across space at the speed of light, but it also went through faster-than-light communication systems humans had barely begun to understand. Within minutes, it would reach every major civilization in the explored galaxy. How long until we know if it worked? Deho asked. No one had an answer. They could only wait. On the Varathian command ship, alarms started blaring. The transmission was playing on every screen, overriding their systems. Varathian commanders watched in silence as humanity laid itself bare before the galaxy. When it finished, the ship's commander stood frozen. He had studied humans for 3 days. He had read about their wars and their endurance and their strange refusal to accept reality. But seeing it all presented together, understanding exactly what it meant, he reached for his communication console with a hand that shook slightly. It was time to make a call he had hoped to avoid. The Varathian Emperor needed to know that humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same. 4 hours remained until the deadline. 4 hours to see if humanity's gamble would pay off. 4 hours to learn if the truth about death worlds was enough to save Earth. The waiting was the hardest part. The first response came 30 minutes after the transmission ended. Not from the Varathians, but from somewhere else entirely. A message in broken English, translated by systems humanity barely understood. "We are Krell," it said simply. "We recognize Deathworld siblings." "You are not alone." Taiho stared at the message in shock. The Krell, one of the 3 active Deathworld species. They had just announced support for Earth to the entire galaxy. More messages followed quickly. Some were offers of alliance. Others were warnings. A few were outright threats from species that saw Earth as a future problem. But what mattered was that everyone was talking about humanity now. Earth had gone from unknown primitives to galactic concern in less than an hour. On the Varathian command ship, chaos reigned. The transmission had gone to their homeworld, to their emperor, to every ship in their fleet and every colony they controlled. And worse, it had gone to all their enemies. Species they had conquered or were planning to conquer had all seen the same thing. They all knew now that the Varathians were afraid of humans. The ship's commander, whose name was unpronounceable to human ears, faced an impossible situation. If he attacked Earth now after that transmission, the entire galaxy would be watching. Some would see the Varathians as brave. Most would see them as reckless, attacking a Deathworld species without proper preparation. And if the invasion went badly, if humans proved as dangerous as the transmission suggested, the Varathian Empire would look weak. But if he retreated, the Empire would also look weak. Afraid of primitives, unable to complete a conquest they had announced, there was no good choice. The humans had made sure of that. Then came another message, this one on a channel only the Varathians were using. It was from one of their own colonies, a world they had conquered 80 years ago. The message was short. If Deathworlders can resist, so can we. Within the hour, 47 Varathian colonies had sent similar messages. Some were open declarations of independence. Others were just questions, asking if the Empire was really strong enough to hold them if humans could fight back. The Empire was fracturing, and humanity had done it without firing a single shot. Ambassador Sora received a communication request from the Varathian ship. She accepted it, expecting threats or demands. Instead, the alien diplomat from her previous meeting appeared on screen looking tired. "You have made things very complicated," he said. "We showed the truth," Sora replied. "Nothing more." "The truth can be a weapon," the Varathian said. He was quiet for a moment. "My emperor wishes to negotiate." Sora felt her heart jump but kept her face calm. "Negotiate what?" "Terms of non-aggression," the alien said carefully. "The Empire recognizes that Earth's integration would be costly. Too costly. We are prepared to grant Earth independent status and territorial rights to your solar system. In exchange for what? A promise that humans will not expand aggressively, and will not encourage other species to rebel against legitimate authority." Sora wanted to laugh. Legitimate authority, as if conquering hundreds of worlds made them legitimate. But she kept her voice professional. "I will take your offer to my government." "Do so quickly," the Varathian said. "My fleet will withdraw to a holding position beyond your system's edge. But if your answer is no, Or if you delay too long, the Emperor may decide that eliminating a Death World species is worth the cost. The communication ended. Sora immediately called an emergency session of Earth's leadership. Within an hour, representatives from every nation were on the conference call. The debate was short. Earth would accept non-aggression, but on its own terms. Sora returned to the communication channel with the Varathian diplomat. Earth accepts your offer with conditions. We want formal recognition from the Galactic Council, not just the Varathian Empire. We want the right to explore space freely. We want the right to trade with other species. And we want it in writing, witnessed by multiple civilizations. The Varathian diplomat looked like he wanted to argue. Then he simply nodded. Agreed. I will arrange contact with the Council immediately. On Aurora 7, Commander Hyuk watched the Varathian fleet begin to move. Not toward Earth, but away. The ships were leaving, withdrawing to the edge of the solar system. They hadn't surrendered, hadn't apologized. They had simply decided Earth wasn't worth the risk. We did it, Tejo said in disbelief. We actually did it. We told the truth, Commander Hyuk replied. Sometimes that's enough. The next few days were a blur. The Galactic Council, which humanity had not known existed until a week ago, sent representatives to Earth. They were cautious, keeping their distance, treating humans with the kind of respect usually reserved for dangerous predators, which Hyuk supposed was accurate. The treaty was signed on neutral ground, a space station belonging to a species that had stayed out of the conflict. Humans were granted independent status. More importantly, they were classified officially as a protected protector species. It meant others couldn't attack Earth, but it also meant Earth had certain responsibilities. Yuna explained it to the public in a broadcast. The galaxy has certain rules about Death World species. They can't be conquered because it's too dangerous, but they also can't be allowed to expand freely, because that's also too dangerous. So they're given protected status. No one attacks them. In exchange, they agree to help protect developing worlds from aggressive empires. So we're police? Someone asked. We're deterrents, Yuna corrected. The galaxy now knows what humans are. If another empire tries to do what the Varathians attempted on other worlds, they have to worry that Earth might get involved. It's not about fighting. It's about making potential conquerors think twice. Lieutenant Jiho was promoted to commander for his role in the strategy. He gave a speech to the new Earth Defense Force that was forming. We didn't win because we were strong. We won because we made them understand what fighting us would cost. That's the lesson here. Violence is not strength. The threat of violence, properly applied, is much stronger. Dr. Nari became Earth's first alien liaison officer. She spent her time learning about the other species in the galaxy, preparing humanity for the relationships they would build. Deho worked with her, studying alien biology and finding ways humans could safely interact with species evolved under very different conditions. Mirai continued her work in cybersecurity, but now she was protecting Earth from threats that came from other stars instead of other countries. Tejo became the director of interstellar communications, managing the messages that flowed between Earth and the galaxy. And Ambassador Sora, who had faced down an empire and won without firing a shot, became Earth's voice to the Galactic Council. She moved to the Council Station, representing humanity in a community of thousands of species. 6 months after the Varathian fleet arrived, Commander Hyuk stood on Aurora 7 and watched ships from dozens of worlds pass through the solar system. Some were traders, some were diplomats, some were just curious tourists, wanting to see the famous Death World and its terrifying inhabitants. The Varathian Empire had not fallen, but it had changed. The colonies that had declared independence were fighting for their freedom, inspired by humanity's example. The Empire was too busy with its own problems to think about conquering anyone else. In the Krell home system, human diplomats were meeting with their Death World cousins, beginning a relationship that would reshape galactic politics. The Vreks, still quarantined, had sent a message congratulating humanity on their clever victory. The third Death World species, still unnamed, had simply sent coordinates and an invitation to visit. Earth had not sought to join the galactic community. It had been forced into it by an invasion fleet. But humans, as always, had adapted. They had survived, and now they would show the galaxy what a Death World species could do when it chose cooperation over conquest. Commander Hyuk received a message from Earth. It was from General Huan, who was now the director of Earth's new space program. We're building a fleet, the message said. Not for war. For exploration and protection. We're going to need good people in command. Are you interested?
Hayek looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy humanity had just joined.
A galaxy that had tried to conquer Earth and had instead learned to fear and respect it. A galaxy that would never be the same now that humans were part of it. He started writing his response. Yes, he typed. I'm interested. The story of how Earth became a galactic power without firing a shot would be told for generations. How a single transmission made the galaxy tremble. How humanity won its freedom by simply being honest about what evolution had made them. But for Commander Hyuk and his crew, it was just the beginning. They had saved Earth. Now they would help Earth find its place among the stars. As they always had, humans would adapt, survive, and thrive. Because that was what Earth had taught them to do, and Earth's lessons were very difficult to unlearn.